Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll start with the clarifications that is left behind, and then we'll move on to the text. Clarification. The first question. How can we take responsibility of our thoughts regardless of the influence of the outside environment, family, etc.? The environment is the one which teaches us to do what we do, think from the childhood. Unless we are born like Prahlada, etc. Later on, as we grow up, if we had some punya to listen to masters like you, we can change. Otherwise, how can one realize that our thoughts are wrong? I recollect the examples Nandaji gives often. People living in a dark cave and never seen the sunlight will believe that their world is perfect. How can we take responsibility for our thoughts regardless of the influence of the outside environment? So the clarification is this. We'll take up clarifications one by one. The first clarification. How can we take responsibility for our thoughts? How can one realize that our thoughts are wrong? Now, primarily, all knowledges come from outside. How we process it and how do we arrive at some conclusions based on the thoughts is your responsibility. The world doesn't give you decisions. The world gives you data. How you process it and arrive at your conclusions is your responsibility. You can't you can't put the responsibility on the data provider. The responsibility is on the one who has arrived at some conclusions. Therefore, to say that how can we not place responsibility on the environment? We cannot place any responsibility on the environment because the environment simply gives you information. You as an individual should have, you as an individual should reflect on it, think about it, and come to conclusions. Most of the time, what happens is the data itself, we misunderstand it as conclusions and we go on talking about it. For example, in this classroom, some information is given. You pick up a newspaper, some information is given. You go to a school, some information is given. When your father and mother talk to you, some information is given. So right through, it is only information that comes from the external source. Because of one's own lack of ability to reflect, we simply accept it as a matter of fact. So this acceptance is whose responsibility? The individual's responsibility. And that individual cannot blame the society for that. Therefore, In Vedanta, it is clearly said it is your responsibility alone, and it cannot be, it's your responsibility alone, and it cannot be transferred to somebody else. It's your responsibility alone, and it cannot be transferred to somebody else. It's very clear. Even in a classroom like this, I can develop a conviction or I can get brainwashed. Both the possibilities are there even in this classroom. In anywhere this possibility exists. One is you can develop a conviction or you can simply get brainwashed. What is the difference between the two? In brainwashing, you are not exercising your independent thinking. In conviction, you have exercised your independent thinking. Number two, conviction means that which remains with you and cannot and will not be, and nobody can shake it. Environmental influence means you can be constantly shaken up. Again, if anything is a product of conviction, you cannot be shaken. If it is influenced by the environment, you can be constantly shaken. Therefore, ultimately speaking, the responsibility falls on oneself. You cannot blame the environment for that. Environment gives data on both sides. It gives you information about bad, it gives you information about good. Who chooses to take the good and refuse the bad? Or who takes the bad and refuses to entertain the good? The individual. So you can't blame the WhatsApp forward. You can't blame the newspaper. You have not verified it. It's your responsibility. This is answering the first clarification. And then the second clarification. The second clarification is, what is the second clarification? I'm unable to understand how a child holds on to things. Is it not imposed by Prakriti? Not sure if extraordinary child like Prahlada would have done that. How can a child understand? Does Prakriti teach us something through such acts? The example that she is referring to is the 90-day child. Attachment begins even before body is grown fully, attachment has started. Example is what I give. 90-day kid, 120 days old, infant. The child is holding on to something. Pluck it away from the hand, what the child will do? It will start crying. It means what? The human being comes with this quality of attachment. Prakriti, I'm not using the word Prakriti at all here, because the word Prakriti itself requires one whole session of explanation. Someday, sometime when we get to that, we will discuss that. It is the inborn weakness of a human being to get attached. Weakness. All beings are born in weakness. A few may be born in strength, like Prahlada. We don't know what Prahlada did when he was an infant. Even the stories that we hear about Prahlada, we actually don't know what it is. What we know is what human being is born with this tendency to get attached. Human being is born with the tendency to hold on to something. That's what attachment. You have to hold on to something. Is born with it. Born with it doesn't mean it's right. You have to change it. All human beings are born illiterates. Therefore, why can't we continue to be illiterate? Is all human beings born literate? No human being is born literate. All human beings are born illiterate. Though naturally at birth we are illiterates, we tend to become illiterate, isn't it? Similarly, for each and everything, there is something that happens naturally. Natural doesn't mean it is right. So all that was said in that example is this. All that was said in this example is a child getting attached. So the human being has the sense of possessiveness from the beginning. Knowledge and understanding is required to get freedom from that. Knowledge and understanding is required to become freedom from that. So it is what does the nature wants us to learn? Nature doesn't want us to teach anything. It is through understanding that we can learn. What does nature wants us to teach? Nature exists, that's all. It is what you understand about it. It exists. What you understand about it is what we are trying to do here. Third clarification. Third clarification. I agree it is our duty to follow the law. I agree that it is our duty to follow the law from the point of extending cooperation to the smooth running of the family, society, country, universe, etc. How to understand it from the point of freedom? Clarification again. I agree that it's our duty to follow the law from the point of extending cooperation to the smooth running of the family, society, country, universe, etc. How to understand it from the point of freedom? The way to attain freedom is by following the law. You don't follow the law for the smooth functioning of the society, country, universe, planet, etc. Anyway, they are all maintained by the law and they all function. They all function effectively with or without your cooperation. Imagine if the law were to be dependent on humans' cooperation for effective functioning. What would have happened by now? I'm cooperating, therefore everything is functioning well. What would have happened if the law were to dependent on human cooperation for its effectiveness? It will be utterly chaotic. So, law functions. Human being freedom is the way to attain freedom for the human being is to obey the law. Is to understand the law and obey the law is the method of freedom for the human being. You obey the law not for the welfare of the society. You obey the law not for the welfare of the humanity. You obey the law not for the welfare of the totality, the universe. You obey the law for what sake? You obey the law for your sake. You are not doing anybody any favor by obeying the law. Obeying the law is a favor that you can do to yourself. Disregarding the law is the way you are hurting yourself. That's all. It is not for the welfare of others. The law is followed. By following the law, by obeying the law, there is this possibility of freedom. That's why in Vedanta, it is very clearly spoken about again and again and again as the law, as the law, as the law. The law means that which is established for the collective welfare. If there is any individual violation, that individual will pay the price for the violation. Law is designed for the collective welfare. If there is an individual violation, that individual will pay the price. Full stop. Therefore, law is always for your freedom. Law is not for you to maintain the harmony. The harmony is maintained. By obeying the law, you don't disturb the harmony. Again, I repeat, the harmony is already there. By you obeying the law, you don't disturb it. By you violating the law, are you going to disturb the harmony? Again, no. Again, no. Your inner harmony only will be disturbed. Because the law is such a supreme force that one individual or a collective human beings cannot influence the law. That's why it is called the supreme law. Therefore, any obedience of the law that we speak about is not for the welfare of the others. It is for your welfare, for your freedom. Understand that. All laws are followed for your welfare. With this, are there any other clarifications?
Yes, Ramasubramanian has that.
Yes, Ram Subramanian.
Sir,
yeah.
Sir, Hari Om, sir. So, regarding last Saturday's class, so you mentioned that birth is the beginning of thought.
Yes.
And end of thought is death.
Okay.
So, and we also talk about the three states, right? Waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper, and that thoughts are there in both waker state and dreamer state, but not in deep sleeper state.
Yes.
So my question, sir, is in waker state, without our awareness, is it possible that sometimes we become completely thoughtless?
Okay. The question is, in the waking state, is it possible to become thoughtless?
Or do we go through thoughtlessness without our awareness? Sir, that is my question.
Ganja acha varume. Yeah, you take ganja, it comes, no? Isn't it? Thoughtlessness without one being aware of thoughtlessness. Can I be conscious without knowing I am conscious? Does the statement have any meaning? Can I be conscious without being aware that I am conscious? Is it possible?
No.
That's all it is. Therefore, the thoughtlessness without being awareness and all doesn't happen. If it is happening, it means temporarily you have switched off. Like jailer pathekla. Ram Subramanian.
Not yet, sir.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Is there anybody who has seen jailer here? Okay. Temporarily, you can be in a thoughtless state for 3 hours. When you are
Are you able to hear me, sir?
Yes. See, temporarily you can be in a thoughtless state while gazing at something. What is meant by thoughtless here? What do you mean? What is meant by the use of the word thoughtless here? for all recognition to happen, Ram Subramaniam, there has to be a thought backing it. If the thought is not backing it, you won't know that it is happening. How do you know something is happening? Only when there is a thought that is backing it. If there is no thought that is backing it, you will not even know that it is existing. Are you able to follow?
Yes.
See, it's very simple. Understand it like that. Because the birth of the thought we spoke about have some issues of discussion. We'll discuss that. If you have to prove the existence of an object, it must be a known object. Again, carefully follow. Thoughts define the person, topic learn, isn't it? If you have to prove the existence of an object, it must be a known object. You can never talk about the existence of an unknown object, can you?
No.
You cannot.
No.
Therefore, the existence of an object can be proved only when it is known for someone or the other. Correct? Either you should have known it, either you should have seen it, or somebody should have seen it. Are you okay till now?
Yes.
If there is something that can never be known by anyone at any time, again I repeat, if there is something that can never be known by anyone at any time, that object comes under what category? Brahmana, non-existent category. It becomes a non-existent category. That's all it is. Existence of an object is proved only when it is knowable. Are you okay till now?
Yes.
Existence of an object is proved only when it is knowable. So, being knowable is a criterion to prove the existence of anything. There has to be a knowability. Being knowable is a criteria to prove the existence of anything. Existence depends upon being knowable, the knowability. Are you okay till now?
Yes.
All are okay till now? ஏன்னா இதுதான் பேசிக் பிரிமைஸ். இதுல குழப்பம் இருந்தா நெக்ஸ்ட் எல்லாம் புரியவே புரியாது. This is the basic thing. Anything becomes knowable only when there is a knower. Anything becomes knowable only when there is a knower. The observer, the subject. How does the subject, the knower, knows anything? Through thought. Are you able to follow? How do you know apple? Did you enter apple or apple entered you? Through the thought. Are you able to follow? Through the thought. Through the thought. Through the thought. Anything becomes knowable only when there is a knower. In the sentence, purida.
Yes.
But horse can exist independently without anybody knowing it, no, sir. Huh? I'm confusing now. Huh? You will say, or you should say, adu sollana you are not thinking nothing. You should say what? For the horse to exist, there is no need for a knower known. What would you say here? How do you reconcile with the previous statement? Anything becomes knowable only when there is a knower. How do you reconcile both? இதெல்லாம் இந்த கன்சர்ன்ஸ் எல்லாம் வரணும் லைஃப்ல. These concerns should come in life. Only when these things becomes a life and death issue for you, Vedanta will be practical. இதெல்லாம் இந்த கொஸ்டின்லாம் லைஃப் அண்ட் டெத் இஷ்யூ ஆகாத வரைக்கும் Vedanta will not be practical at all. Vedanta means don't think that handling the emotions, handling the family, சந்தோஷமா அப்படியே இருந்துட்டு போறதுக்கு Vedanta ஒரு யூஸ்ஃபுல் டூல்லாம் கிடையாது. Vedanta becomes meaningful only these issues becomes a life or death matter. What is life or death matter? Anything becomes knowable only when there is a knower. It means the presence of the object is known only when there is a subject. So what you call as interaction is subject-object relationship. Are you okay till now?
Yes.
What do you call as thoughtless here? It's a very meaningless word that we use. Existence of an object depends upon the subject. For even to deny nothing is there, there has to be a subject. For to say it exists, a subject is necessary. To say nothing is existing, again a subject is necessary. And how does the subject recognize anything? When you see a horse, you recognize the horse by the thought of the horse. When you see an apple, you recognize it by the thought of an apple. When you recognize the moon, you recognize it through the thought of the moon. You follow? It means all knowing, all awareness, everything is possible only through the presence of the subject. And presence of the subject means the thought. Are you okay till now?
Yes.
The presence of the subject means the presence of the thought. The eyes are looking at the object, but the mind is gone elsewhere. Will you notice it?
No.
Therefore, all awareness springs from a thought. I am thoughtless. I am in the space of thoughtlessness is also a thought. For who is saying thoughtlessness? Who is saying there is thoughtless? A thought only is saying. Are you able to follow? Therefore, it's all these are big words people use without knowing the very fundamental basics. The fundamentals, the basics. You follow? Ram Subramanian.
Yes.
Therefore, it is very clearly understood what the presence of the object, you can know the object only by the presence of the subject. And you know that you are existing also only when you are recognizing objects around you. So both are so interdependent on each other. Are you able to follow?
Yes.
Now from this comes another conclusion. What is it? You know that your thoughts are going away. You know that you are aware only when you are recognizing the objects around you, beings around you. When you say coma, what is that?
Unconscious.
Thoughtless means death. Thoughtless means death. So thoughts keep. Temporary death is deep sleep. Temporary dying is deep sleep. And everybody craves for deep sleep, no? Everybody craves for deep sleep, isn't it? Temporary death, okay, sir, but the permanent body uttu pora death da vanda, isn't it? Leaving this body and going into another body transformation la vana, but every day I want to die every day I want to be deathless for some time. Are you able to follow? So thoughtlessness is thought is the interaction between subject and the object. The object can be gross, the object can be subtle, but nevertheless, like communism is a thought. Where is communism as an object? Idealism is a thought. Capitalism is a thought. You follow? So interactions happen, awareness happens always through the medium of thought only. I am thoughtless is also a thought. I went into deep samadhi. Angin thought irundha, you can say that I went into deep samadhi. If there was no thought there, you won't even know that you are in deep samadhi. Then we are talking about a non-existent category. We don't talk about non-existent category like that. You follow?
Okay.
Therefore, it is very clear. What is it that is very clear? Thoughtless. Can I be? Rephrase your question. Can I be aware? Can I be in a state of non-awareness, knowing that I am not aware of anything? Is it possible? Prida, Ram Subramaniam, rephrase it in different way. Can I enter into a state of non-awareness and then know that I'm in a state of non-awareness? Will a person in coma know that person is in coma? It's not possible. Because the moment you know that you are in coma, you are out of coma. The moment you say, you can never say, I am in deep sleep. Deep sleep can always be spoken in past tense only. Waking and dream can be spoken in present tense. Deep sleep ore tense da. Inna tense da? Past tense da. You can never say, I am in deep sleep. If you say, I am in deep sleep, then it means you are not in deep sleep. So thoughtlessness means both dissolution of the subject and the object. Are you able to understand now?
Yes.
Dissolution means the dissolution of subject and the object. Birth of the thought means birth of the subject and the object. Death of the thought means death of the subject and death of the object. There is no awareness like this and all. There is no awareness where you are sitting and watching something, or you are in a state where you are in a thoughtless state and you won't even know that you are in a thoughtless state. You can only talk about it in past tense. You can never talk about it in present tense. Are you okay till now?
Yes.
Finally speaking, even to talk about it in past tense is also completely wrong. Why? Because some element of you should have been present even there to register it in the brain and report it back. Deep sleep lo kuda edo interaction is happening. We don't understand that interaction. Say that. Otherwise, you are able to say, I had a deep sleep. You are able to say that I had a deep sleep. Isn't it? Who's saying that I had a deep sleep? Brahman cannot come and say I had a deep sleep. Waker is not saying that. Dreamer is not saying that. Deep sleeper. So what is the deep sleep state? Some kind of an interaction, some kind of a presence, something is there which is indescribable. Are you able to follow now?
Yes.
So even to say that, even to report that it happened in past tense, also you can't completely say you are not there. Unless some part of you was there, who's there to talk about it? Who's there to report about it? Because there is a memory, no. There is a memory of waking dream experience, and then there is a memory of another experience that you had that we call as deep sleep. You are comparing and contrasting these two experiences and then say that is a wonderful state. It means some part of you should have been there also. What is that? How is that? We don't understand. We don't understand that. Since it is very difficult to say we don't understand that, for the junior student, it was a rudimentary mind and intellect was there. To the junior student, will be told rudimentary mind and intellect is there. Now, when you say rudimentary mind and intellect means what is a rudimentary mind and intellect? Emotion, intellect, awareness, discrimination, what is it then? A junior student will never have this problem of analysis at all. Rudimentary mind and intellect. They will say yes and they will move away. And if you start inquiring deeper into that, the conclusion that you have to come to is what? An experience where something is happening and you know that you went through it, but you can never describe about it. You know that you went through it, but you cannot describe it. And human ego cannot, that's what we discussed in some other session. Human ego cannot accept indescribability. Human ego has to accept, has to say that I can explain. Human ego has this problem of having to say, I can explain everything. Are you able to follow Ram Subramanian?
Yes,
So this is something that is indescribable.
Yes.
So even thoughtlessness is through thoughtlessness is through a thought only, because there is a memory. There is a memory of it. Memory is thought. Memory is a thought only, isn't it? You follow?
Yes.
Yes, Venkatachalam, welcome. 1 second. He's also on the same thing. Yes.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Thinking about these thoughts.
Yes.
Even for the thoughts arise from
Yes.
From the ego.
Yes.
The ego attributes all thoughts to itself, not
Yes.
realizing
Yes.
till the time we have that enlightenment, or till the time we truly understand
Yes.
our nature. So
Yes.
thoughts will continue to occur
Yes.
even with the full understanding, but they're something like a passing phase. Thoughts
Yes.
don't register, or we don't go over adding on to the thoughts. That's
Yes.
what would be our nature,
Yes.
with the understanding of our true nature also.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes. See, some thought has the potential to grab your attention. Some thought doesn't have the potential to grab your attention. But nevertheless, there is a thought. Most of the thoughts doesn't grab our attention. Like, for example, I may read an article on cryptocurrency. I was trying to understand what it is. I read 2-3 things. I am trying to get an understanding of what it is. Now, it is very, very, now that word cryptocurrency itself will be a very passing thought for a lot. For some, it grabs the attraction. For some, it grabs the attention. So there is a thoughts that grabs your attention. There are thoughts that doesn't grab your attention, but nevertheless, it passes through you. The very fact, if you open the newspaper and read that there is this thing called cryptocurrency, means thought has passed through you. Otherwise, you won't even have registered the word cryptocurrency.
Correct. That's right.
So there is a thought that has passed through you, but most of it has the potential to
Disappear.
Thank God it is disappearing like that. The few repeatedly, the few comes again and again repeatedly because we have thought about it, we paid attention to it repeatedly. That which we have paid attention to it repeatedly comes back again. Again, that how did we pay attention to it? By feeding it. How did we pay attention to it means what? Continuing to feed it. Is it okay? Venkatachan?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
What about the horse?
Huh?
You said horse.
Ah,
For nobility, there should be a noble.
yes.
And you brought in the example of horse.
Yes. If there is no one in trying to answer Ram Subramaniam, I brought this example. The example that I brought is there is this thing called horse. Can that horse exist independent of a person? Registering it, there is a horse, correct? Is that what you are referring to?
Because I couldn't understand why you brought in the example of a horse.
Ah.
And what are you trying to help us understand through the horse?
The question is, what was it that was being trying to explain through the example of the horse brought in? For example, can there be an existence of anything without somebody noticing it? Is there anything that can exist without anybody noticing it? Thought means interaction between subject and the object. Thought means what? Thought means interaction between subject and the object. Now, there is the subject. Thought, we understand it as arising out of the subject. Object exists independently. That is common sense. Vedanta says it's wrong. Vedanta is saying it's wrong. Are you able to follow? Thoughts arises from an individual, even if and objects exist independent of the individual. Idu vandu pratyaksha pramanam. This conclusion is based on pratyaksha pramanam. If you carefully don't take pratyaksha pramanam as a standard and inquire deeply, what will you find? What will you find? For the object to exist, there has to be a subject. For the subject to exist, there has to be an object. One of the very subtle fundamental thought of Vedanta is that. That's why world is the interaction of subject and object. It is not that people say, sir, I came today, my date of birth is only 1980, world is billion years ago. No. So how can you say that? Thought has traveled 4 billion years in the past and established it. If thought can travel 10 billion years, it will exist. 10 billion years comes into existence. If you have a thought of only 6,000 years, you will say everything in the world is only 6,000 years old. Are you able to follow? So, subject and object means what? What is it that connects the subject and the object? The thought. So, it means for the thought to arise, both have to be present. You cannot say one is independent of the other. That's what I was trying to explain. There is this lesson in Vedanta treatise called the theory of perception. When we studied that, we discussed it there. When we studied that, we discussed it. How it is the play of the subject and the object. That play of the subject or object is recognized through what? By the medium of a thought. Are you able to follow? It is explained through the medium of a thought. So, in order to explain to Ram Subramaniam, I brought in that example. Supposing if you are not there, can a horse exist independently? You as the subject is not there. Can a horse exist independently? Answer. What is answer? Pratyaksha Pramanam will say, yes, it can exist independently. Deeper penetration will understand, even to say it is non-existing, there has to be a subject who is saying that it is non-existing. Are you able to follow? Even to say it is non-existing, there has to be an existing person to say it. Are you able to follow? Therefore, in order to explain to him about the birth of the thought is the birth of the person, I brought in this example. Are you able to follow? That's the example, the horse. If thoughts can produce an object, sit and think of a horse. Can you create a horse? From another end, another argument will come. If thoughts can produce everything, okay, I am sitting and thinking there is a horse, there's a horse, there's a horse, there's a horse, there's a horse. Will there be a horse in front? Then what are we talking? Are you able to follow? It means for an existence to happen, two things are necessary. There has to be a subject and there has to be an object. How does the presence of the object is known to the subject? The presence of the object is known to the subject through what? Through the thought. The presence of the object enters through the gross organs, the eye connects it to the sense center, the mind, and then the intellect deciphers it and makes it distinguishing it from the camel and the horse, and then say it is a horse. Are you able to follow? This is how it happens. This is from the standpoint of the object. From the standpoint of the subject, what happens? Thought goes and envelops it and makes the object available for cognition. Same thing can be told from the standpoint of the subject also. When you say it from the standpoint of the subject, now I said from the standpoint of the object. Now, how do you say from the standpoint of the subject? Because it has to start from the subject. It cannot start from the object. It has to start from the subject. So if it has to start from the subject, how does it start as the subject? How does it start from you as the subject? Thoughts go out of you and envelop the object. Therefore, making the object known to you. Therefore, you are knowing it only because of the thoughts that go out of you and envelops the object, making it known. Elementary school of Vedanta, they will teach all this. Yeah. Not in the highest levels. The elementary schools, they will teach all this. Because based on the Praman. Are you able to follow? Based on the Praman. The thoughts that go out of you and envelop the object as it were, making it known to you. That is why the thought is not there, the mind is elsewhere, the object is there, you won't even know that it is there. Are you able to follow now? The object is there. If your thoughts are not there, you won't even know that it is there. The doorbell rings, you are preoccupied, you won't even hear the doorbell ringing. It means what? From you, something has to go out and enliven it as it were. What is it that goes out of you and enliven it? That which goes out of you and enliven it and makes the object known to you is called a thought. This thought is the birth of the person. Thought vararamchada, there is the birth of the person. If thought dies, end of the thought is end of the human being. Are you okay? Any more?
Yes, Anshu.
Yes, I'm sure.
So is it okay to ask a question from the middle path?
Middle path. No, wait. I will get very confused. Yeah. First, let us worry about, first let us clear this thing first. ஸ்ரீகாந்த் எல்லாம் பவுன்சர் இல்ல, எல்லாம் பவுன்சர், எல்லாம் சுருல தலைக்கு மேல போயின்னு இருக்குது, பாலுக்கு பால். ஒரு ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்டும் didn't make any sense. That's why I always wonder, Vedanta super sir. I always wonder, what have they studied Vedanta to call it a super? Because if you studied it, you will hair pulling தான் நடக்கும், isn't it? Oil pulling நடக்கிற, hair pulling only will hair pulling will happen. You say Vedanta super, no, morals and ethics they call it a super. அதெல்லாம் super கிடையாது. This is the, what is saying is very simple. There is something deep they are trying to convey in all this. Thoughts define the person and etc. That which is experienced is mithya. That which can never be experienced is satyam. Again, that which is experienced is mithyam. That which can never be experienced is satyam. Is there such a thing that is never experienced? Could there be a thing that is never experienced? According to all we have discussed, there cannot be a thing like that, because horns madri adu. Rabbit, horns. Vedanta comes and says, no, there is one thing that exists. There is one thing. What is that one thing? What is that one thing? Waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, and you. The waker, the dreamer, the deep sleeper is the mithyam, the you, the satyam. Because you are the waker, you are the dreamer, you are the deep sleeper, then how you become separate of that? Because waker, dreamer, deep sleeper is you. Then where is that you separate of it? That waker, dreamer, deep sleeper is an interaction of play of thoughts, etc. The birth of the thought is the birth of the waker, end of the thought is the end of the waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, etc. And you is different from that three. And you is different from that three. To explain this, the you is different from the three. It has to be explained by the difference of thoughts. Waker, dreamer, deep sleeper realm is in the medium of thoughts. And there is something that is, we don't know what it is. And he says, don't say anything about it. Don't say anything about it. For anything you say about it is, anything you utter about it becomes limited. How do you say all that you are experiencing as mithya? You can't make a statement. No, how can you say all that you are experiencing as mithya? An experience that is dependent on two constant changing factors but appear to be there. That is mithya. Mithya is an appearance. Are you able to follow? There are these two constant changing factors. Logically speaking, when these two constant changing factors interact, how it should be? It has to be utterly confused. You can't even make any sense out of it. But we are seeing a world, no? We are seeing a world, we are seeing a stability, we are seeing a law functioning, we are seeing everything. What would you call it as? You cannot call it real, neither you can call it unreal. The word that is used is mithyam. It's mithya. It's mithya. Mithya means that which is experienced but cannot be explained. That's mithya. Srikanth. அதுவே பரவாயில்ல சார். தாட்டே சப்ஜெக்ட் ஆப்ஜெக்டே பரவாயில்லாம இதுக்கு அது பெட்டர் சார். Mithya is that which can be experienced but cannot be explained. That's mithya. World is that which is experienced but cannot be explained. How can you experience and still not be able to explain it? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. That is the world. If everything is mithyam, then what is it? If everything is mithyam, satyam has to be indicated. How to indicate the satyam? That is where all this reasoning comes. That's where all this reasoning comes. What is that? There is something that is dependent on the duality of subject and object. There is something that is not dependent on the duality of subject and object for existence. There is an existence that is dependent on subject-object duality. There is something that is not dependent on the subject-object duality. That which is not dependent on the subject-object duality is you. That which is dependent on the subject-object duality is waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. Are you able to follow? இதெல்லாம் எதுக்கு படிக்கிறோம் சார்? புரியவே மாட்டேன்றது. எதுக்கு இதெல்லாம் படிக்கிறோம்? Why are we even? What is the purpose of studying all this? What is the purpose of knowing all this? Just quibbling with words, just playing with words. Practical ஏதாவது பண்ணணும் சார். I don't know. வேதாந்தா பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இப்படிதான் பேசினே இருப்பாங்க இல்லையா? இதுதான் வேதாந்தா பேசினே இருப்பாங்க. Behind the subject and object, there is something that is pure. Behind the subject and object, there is something that is pure. There is something that is existing. That which is not dependent on the subject and object. Swayam prakashate atma. In the world, nothing is swayam prakasha. Everything is dependent prakasha in the world. That's why it's called conditioned consciousness, reflected consciousness. It is only the pure consciousness that is swayam prakasha. Swayam prakashate atma. Yagyavalkya taught this to Maitreyi in the Upanishad saying, Swayam prakashate atma. That is okay, sir. Whatever Yagyavalkya teaches Maitreyi in story illam solittu, don't give some stories and escape. How it can be indicated, how it can be explained. Yes, the eyes can see everything. Because of it seeing everything, the eyes knows that it is there. the presence of the eyes are known not because the eyes have seen itself. The presence of the eyes are known because you can see. Do you understand this? How do you know the eyes are there? Because it's seeing. But sir, I should see my eyes. No. You stand in front of the mirror, what are you seeing? Are you seeing your eyes? You are seeing the reflection of the eyes through the help of the eye. For the eye can never look at itself. And yet it is known. Swayam prakashate. Are you able to follow? Objects are seen with the aid of the light, but light per se is not seen. Have you ever seen light per se? Sir, tubelight pattern you should not say, isn't it? Yeah. Have you ever seen light per se? Sunlight I have seen, moonlight I have seen, football stadium light I have seen, you cannot see. Light per se is not, light per se cannot be seen. When light is interrupted, when light is obstructed, the object is seen. So, when you are seeing the object, light is seen already. But light per se cannot be. So by these examples of Swayam Prakashate, Brahman is elaborated. Are you able to follow? In the Holocaust of attachment, why do we have to talk about all this? Because he said the purpose of understanding all this attachment, etc., is for what? So that you are free from the superficial interest in life. You are free from the superficial things that bothers you. The pinprick should not be like a pinprick should not take your attention all the time. Now the pinpricks are taking your attention all the time. What are the pinpricks? Loss of some wealth here, loss of some health there, loss of somebody here. All these pinpricks of life is occupying you so much that you have no time for the realities. Therefore, Holocaust of attachment, what did it did? What did it do? Removed the pinpricks. Our chapter, the pinpricks is removed. Having removed the pinpricks, the proper Vedanta has to be indicated. Therefore, it started by saying thoughts define the person. And this one statement, I never assumed it will create so much of confusion. What is that confusion? Birth of the thought is birth of the person. End of the thought is end of the person. Meaning birth of the thought is the birth of the experience. End of the thought is end of experience. And that experience that you go through is of three: waking, dream, deep sleep. And that experience that you go through is of three. What are the three types of experience that you go through? Waking, dream, deep sleep. And then the topic is saying waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, and you. Abdina, he is segregating you from these three. Waking, waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, Turiam nu kuda sollu. Because U equals Turiam. U here not equals the small y. U here indicates of the capital Y. Capital Y is Brahman. So waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, and Brahman. Waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, and Turiam. Waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, and you. Why? Because you are the Turiam, you are the Brahman. To explain this, the topic. Thoughts define the person. Are we all okay till now? With this, I'm winding up the thought discussion and going to the next discussion. Is in relation to what we discussed now? Yes.
So you gave the example of an object and said that because there is an obstruction, we are able to know there is a light. If there is no obstruction, light cannot be known. Object is the evidence for light. Similarly, waker, dreamer, deep sleeper is the evidence for that.
This is called fallacy in thinking. The presence of the object is the proof of light. Similarly, waker, dreamer, deep sleeper is the proof of Brahman. What is the fallacy in that? The question that she is asking is, I said, the presence of the object is the proof of light. Similarly, the presence of waker, dreamer, deep sleeper is the proof of Brahmana. That's the question. I'm saying there is a fallacy in this thinking. What is the fallacy? In that light obstruction, we are not discussing about light. We are only discussing the inability, the incapacity to see it per se. We are not proving the presence of the object there. Are you able to follow? In that example of light obstructing, the presence of the object is known only when light is obstructed. What is it that is conveyed there?
Light cannot be seen.
There is something that makes everything to be seen, but that which makes everything to be seen cannot be seen. Similarly, that which makes the individual go through the three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep states of consciousness, that individual that is going through these three states of waking, dream, deep sleep state of consciousness can never know the pure consciousness. Are you able to follow? That's how the comparison has to be done. The proof of consciousness is not dependent on an object. Proof means it is dependent. Proof, Brahman is not, supposing there are no waker, dreamer, deep sleeper at all ever. What will happen to Brahman? It will still be there, no? It will still be there in its original glory. It will still be there in its original resplendence. Are you able to follow? It means that example is trying to convey one point, that you don't take the other angles to it and compare it like that. This is the fallacy. This is a fallacy in thinking. Or everybody does this fallacy in thinking all the time. Rama is a wonderful human being, but he sent his wife on exile, no? You follow? When we say Rama is a wonderful husband, but he did Agni Pariksha for his wife, no? What do we, are you able to follow? Thinking is one aspect is told. When you bring in the other aspect, it can be ridiculed. The whole thing becomes ridiculed. The whole thing will appear ridiculous if you take it out of that one comparison. Are you able to follow? That is the facts. We'll take up Anshu's middle path and conclude quickly. Anshu, what is your problem with middle path?
So you said that when you are in extremes, there is clarity. So, but when we are in extremes and how can we have a doubt that we are in extreme if we are clear?
Say that again. I didn't hear anything.
So in middle path, you mentioned that when we are in one extreme, we have a clarity that we think that we are clear in our head.
We think we are clear. So because I was wondering. Correct. I would have never said that it's clarity.
At that point, how can we doubt that we are in an extreme?
Yes. When you are in one extreme, how can I even know that I am in that extreme? You cannot know it by yourself. You can never know it by yourself. If you can know it by yourself, then you are not in that extreme only. So it is, you can never know it by by yourself. Somebody from outside has to help you out initially. If you have gone through enough study and reflection and spiritual practices, you will know that you are tending towards an extreme. You will know that. If you have done the proper study, reflection, etc., you will know that you are moving towards an extreme, and you will pull yourself back. If you have reached that extreme point, you will never know that. You can never doubt. That is why 99.9% of time in life, we don't have a doubt at all. 99.9% of humanity also doesn't have a doubt about what they are, doubt about anything. Why? Extreme always appears like clarity. It has an appearance of clarity. It has an appearance of being normal. That's how it is, sir. Why are you unnecessarily confusing? That's how it is. Extremes appear like normal. Extremes appears like clarity. It is right, sir. What else? What else is there? It is right. Are you able to follow? So in middle path, I said extremes appear like clarity, but in the true sense, it is not. How do you even doubt it? You can never doubt it. Or certain mental states, if you can reflect on it, is an indicator that you have moved into extreme. Certain mental states can be used as an indicator. Having said that you cannot do it by yourself, who will come and teach you? Because that person is also in one extreme, no? So then we come and say there are certain indicators that you can use to know that you've gone into an extreme. What are the indicators? What is the indicator? Singular, plural. What is the indicator to know that you went into an extreme? One indicator. Disappointment. Disappointment is the indicator that you went into one extreme. Again, I repeat. Wherever there is disappointment, what are synonyms for disappointment? There are so many words, no? Are you able to follow? Anshu. So, how do you know for yourself? Wherever you experience a disappointment, you understand that in relation to that, you have moved into an extreme. Disappointment is the indicator. Why? How do we say disappointment is the indicator? Because not realizing the moving nature of the mind, you thought this is how it is going to be, and you developed an expectation. That expectation will result in disappointment. So what is the indicator of the mind getting stuck to the extreme? Disappointment is the indicator. Are you able to follow? Worry and anxiety is an indicator for something else. Agitations is an indicator for something else. Disappointment is the indicator of moving into one extreme. I thought this is how it's going to be, this is it. And when the reality hits me, I get disappointed. Are you able to follow? So there are indicators by which you can doubt. Question is, how can I doubt? Use disappointment as an indicator to doubt. Wherever you get disappointed, but sir, if I'm disappointed with God, what do we do, sir? If I'm disappointed in the class, what do we do, sir? Disappointed. All disappointments means you are stuck in one extreme. So use disappointment as the indicator. You follow? Use disappointment as the indicator to understand that you have moved into Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. With this, we'll conclude for today. Any clarifications next week?